My name is Sarah, and I'm going to be talking to you today about being poor. I want to tell you a little bit about myself and my qualifications to tell you about being poor. I grew up a little bit poor, using some of these resources and locations to get by. And it was sometimes kind of hard, but it was always a relief to know that there was something out there and that I had options. So now I actually work getting people on Social Security benefits and Medicaid and Medicare and things like that. And I'm not actually going to be talking a lot about Social Security today because it's a very complicated thing and I would have to dedicate an entire presentation to it. But I am going to be talking about some resources in the community, some things that are a bit easier to obtain. You don't have to prove that you have a disability to get onto most of these things. All you have to prove is that you don't have a lot of money. So let's get started. So here we have my thing. Help me, I'm poor. Guide to making it when you are on your own. So I'm Sarah. Again, I was poor for a good while, and then I got a job helping other people find resources when there were things they needed that they could not afford. The first thing I want you to know is that being poor is really common. It's not something that I feel that people should be embarrassed about because it's so common. So the average American is struggling to make ends meet each month, with 59% of US adults saying that they live paycheck to paycheck, according to a recent survey from Charles Schwab. That's from USA Today back in 2019, excuse me. And then this is just something that runs through my head a lot when I'm feeling poor. It's from Bridesmaids, and she's trying to get into first class, but they won't let her, and she says, help me, I'm poor. Being poor is not a failure. Like I mentioned before, it's super common, and it's definitely not a moral failure. Doesn't make you a bad person. It can mean a lot of things. It can mean you were in an accident, or you did make a financial mistake, or it can mean that you're not able to work as much as some people are. And poor happens, and it can happen to anyone. And I use this picture because it reminds me of a story that I heard from a friend of mine. He was living in Minnesota in the winter, and it's a very cold place. It's up north towards Canada. And he had a roommate relationship where he was basically paying the rent to his roommate, and his roommate was supposed to give the rent to the landlord. So my friend was doing everything right. He was paying his rent on time to his roommate, who then was supposed to be paying the landlord. But what his roommate didn't tell him was that even though my friend was able to make rent on time, his roommate was not. And so one day when he got home from work, all of his stuff was out front and he had been evicted because his roommate had been hiding it from him because he was embarrassed. And so my friend ended up living in Minnesota in the dead of winter in a car that the heat was broken. And I just think that's a really good illustration of how you can be doing everything right, and you can be checking to make sure that everything's right, but that doesn't mean that you're safe necessarily. And I don't tell that to scare people. I just want people to know that, like, this can happen to anyone. So the good news is that there are resources. If you look around, I'm going to talk mostly about Utah and primarily probably about Utah County. For local resources, there are resources that are online and there are resources that are nationwide. But the things that there are some local things that I'm going to be talking about that are just around Utah County and a little bit in Salt Lake County. So health resources. So the first health resource I want to talk about is getting on state insurance. That state insurance is called Medicaid. I think it has some other names in some other states. Like I know California has a different name for it, but Medicaid is the national name. If you refer to Medicaid, most people know what you're talking about if they are, in fact, aware of Medicaid. So it's state-funded insurance, meaning it's state taxes. So if you paid taxes in your state, you've probably paid into Medicaid. Medicaid can pay for your health appointments, your medications, and some other disability-related expenses. So you really have to work at it, but every once in a while you can get Medicaid to pay for a wheelchair or something like that. You can have Medicaid without being on any other government benefits. So one way to qualify for it, absolutely, is to be on SSI, but you don't necessarily have to be on SSI. One thing that you do have to be if you are applying for Medicaid is having under $2,000 in assets. That means money under your mattress, money in several bank accounts, stocks, bonds. They ask about mineral rights, meaning oil wells and diamond mines. They ask about livestock, and they ask about large tools like backhoes and things like that. Stuff that they think you should sell to pay for your medical care before they're going to help you out. So if you think Medicaid might be something that you want to apply for, go to medicaid.utah.gov/apply-Medicaid to learn more or apply. Your second choice for insurance, or your second option, it's not necessarily the second choice, it's a good option. I've been on both, is the federal marketplace, aka Obamacare. And sometimes that scares people off, but know that people on both sides of the aisle were working on this, and this is kind of the agreement that they came to. So multiple insurance plans that are available even if you don't have a job. So for a lot of people, insurance is connected to having a job. This makes it so you don't necessarily have to, and that you can have an affordable insurance plan without getting it through your work. You enter info into the website and you get a plan that works for you. You can apply during open enrollment. I should have looked up when open enrollment is. I think it may have already passed for 2020, but you can also go if you have after significant life changes. So if you moved, if you lost a job, if you stopped working, if you had a kid, if you got married, those are all significant life changes that kind of give you your own private open enrollment. Go to healthcare.gov, and that's where you can learn more and apply. This is a really good option. When I didn't have a job, I was just in school. I think I was paying like $50 a month for some minimal health insurance, but it was better than not having anything. And I kept that insurance right up until I got insurance through my job. And it was really nice to have that. Sometimes you'll go onto the health marketplace and you'll find that you can't even afford what is there. The reason for that is because they take into account what you're bringing in, possibly what you have saved up. I'm not sure about that. And they decide whether or not they're going to offer you something that's actually affordable for you. So I thought this meme was funny because I thought this guy was funny. You're too poor to afford affordable health care. guess I'll die, kind of dark humor. But don't do that. So don't have to die just because you can't afford affordable health care. There are other options. So there are low-cost clinics across the United States. Some of them are low cost, some of them are even free. They charge basically based on something called a sliding scale. So at our local clinic, which is Mountain Lands in Provo, you have to bring in your pay stubs. And then if you don't have pay stubs because you don't have a job, you have to kind of tell them how you're making it, how you're living. So there are places like this across the United States. There's one in Salt Lake City called 4th Street Clinic, which is placed on 4th Street in Salt Lake City. They provide services on that sliding scale. So if you want to learn more about those, mountainlands.org. I believe they're also in Springville and Payson. 4th Street Clinic is a Salt Lake County thing. And then if you're outside of those areas, there's a website called freeclinics.com. And if you go and kind of type in where you are and what you need, they'll help you find a place that might work for you. So sometimes medications can be really, really expensive. I've known people who are paying out the nose for medications that they really need, like insulin for people who are diabetic. Just a couple of vials can cost you upwards of $800 a month. And that's not feasible for a lot of people. So there are subsidized pharmacies across the United States. And they're usually attached to the clinics that I was talking about earlier. The subsidized pharmacies are those at Wasatch Mental Health and 4th Street Clinic. What I mean by subsidized is that the government has pitched in money. So the drug companies are getting just as much money as they're asking for, I believe, maybe a little less. But part of that money is being paid by the government and part of that money is being paid by you. Another option is Costco and Sam's Club. They actually can't legally keep you out of their pharmacies even if you don't have a membership, which is really nice because they often have the cheapest prices outside of a subsidized pharmacy in your area. Another thing that is really wonderful is something called goodrx.com. It will help you find the nearest cheapest pharmacy that's not the subsidized pharmacy. And they also have coupons. So sometimes you don't have a lot of choice about where you go to in the pharmacy. You can't get somewhere else far away, or there are only some pharmacies that are 24/7 pharmacies, that kind of thing. So sometimes if you go on GoodRx, you can find an open pharmacy that will work for you. And you can find coupons usually for the pharmacies that you're trying to use. And that can actually save you a lot of money. Sometimes like 90 to 95%, kind of depending on the medication and the deals they have running at the time. The last thing is online pharmacies, and I would caution you on them. They're good things. They're valid. You can use them and it's legal. However, there are some on there that aren't legal. So you want to kind of check those things out and make sure that you are using a legal pharmacy. A good indicator that it may not be a legal pharmacy is that it doesn't require a prescription. So sometimes with those, you're often not getting what you needed, and you're getting something else. And it's not going to help you. It's just going to take your money. So please be cautious with online pharmacies. I wear glasses and I have a very strong prescription. I'm very blind without my glasses, and it can be very expensive getting my glasses. So like the pharmacies, at Costco and Sam's Club, the ophthalmologists are also not allowed to keep you out. So if you go to the front of a Costco or a Sam's Club and they say, ask for your card, just tell them you're going to the ophthalmologist or the pharmacy. They shouldn't give you any trouble. They know that they can't keep you out. And they're usually not even trying to keep you out. There's also a place called iMart Express. That's actually where I got these. With my insurance, I was able to get 2 pairs of glasses for a little over $100, I think. But as I said, I am very blind, and that makes my lenses more costly than lenses that are for someone with better eyesight. Then there are places online that are really wonderful. I don't think I meant to put that E in there on Zenni Optical. I think it's just Zenni Optical. But these are places that I haven't used, but I've heard of people using them with great success. Zenni Optical, Warby Parker, and iBuy Direct. You are required to have a prescription for your eyeglasses that's at least no more than a year old. And you're also going to want to find out your pupillary distance, which is this distance between your 2 pupils, which kind of affects what glasses are going to work for you and which glasses are not. So if you ask the ophthalmologist for your prescription, they legally have to give it to you. Sometimes they'll try not to give it to you. They'll say that you have to buy your glasses through them. That's not the case. So if they're saying that, let them know that's illegal. And then also ask for your pupillary distance. They should be happy to give that to you. Okay, food. So a lot of the time when we think about like the scariest part of being really, really poor, those things are things like having no food or not having a place to live. So when it comes to places to live, I didn't cover that, but I did put some extra resources at the end of this that should be able to help you out on that one. But when it comes to food stamps, they're pretty easy. I didn't find them too difficult to qualify for. It depends on who you're asking whether or not they'll give you enough. If you're a single person, they usually will give you quite a bit, and that's usually enough to eat on. So you'll get it on kind of a card. It's very much like a debit card, like it has a PIN number. Sorry, a PIN. PIN number is redundant. Doesn't matter. And so they'll give you, you'll choose a PIN, and then you'll get on, you can go to any usual grocery store. Now, the thing about food stamps that's kind of weird is that it won't cover all food. And it's usually won't cover the food. It's usually not what you think. So a lot of people come to me and they're like, well, you can't buy soda on food stamps. And I'm like, maybe you don't want to be able to buy soda on food stamps, but you can. You can buy Monster on food stamps. You can buy all the trashy food that you can think of, the junk food. But what you can't buy is something that was heated in the store. So if you go to the store and you find, like, let's say a rotisserie chicken, and it's already been heated, it's already been cooked, it's ready to eat right there. If you were feeling particularly hungry, you could open it up and you could snap off a leg and you could eat it right then and there. But food stamps won't cover it. Food stamps will cover frozen meals. Food stamps will cover canned foods. Food stamps will cover raw foods. Food stamps will cover a lot of things, but if it's something that like you could eat right then and there, it's hot and ready, you can't buy it. So you could buy a pizza from Papa Murphy's that you have to take home and bake yourself. but you couldn't buy a pizza from Papa John's that you could eat in your car on the way home. But yeah, food stamps, again, you have to prove you're poor, but you go to jobs.utah.gov/customer education/services/food stamps to learn a little bit more about it and to figure out how to apply. Yeah. So the next thing to deal with if you're trying to get food, and maybe food stamps isn't working out for you, or maybe food stamps just isn't giving you enough money because you have a big family, or they think you make more money and they don't need to help you out with stuff, but you have greater things that you have to spend money on, and so that's not really how your life works. There are other ways to get food. So there are food pantries, and there are subsidized groceries. Now, in Utah, if you're LDS, there's something called the Bishop's Storehouse. You can get kind of a recommendation from your ecclesiastical leader in the LDS church, and they will allow you to shop in the Bishop's Storehouse. So my dad said that they have the best ham he's ever tasted. So if you want to go to the Bishop's Storehouse and get their ham, my father highly recommends it. But if you are not with a church, there are other options. So foodpantries.org is a way to find food pantries in your area, and also subsidized groceries. So there's food pantries. Usually they kind of give you an amount of what you can come get. Some food pantries have areas for people that experience allergies, which is really great because food that doesn't have allergens in it, like gluten-free bread and things like that, is definitely a lot more expensive than gluten-full bread. So you can find out on foodpantries.org kind of what your options are there. Another option is other religious places. So here in Utah, there's a Sikh temple in Taylorsville, and there's a Hindu temple in American Fork, and I can't remember. And there are churches all over Utah. And so the Sikhs actually believe in feeding everyone. Sorry, somebody moved my door and it scared me. So the Sikhs believe in feeding everyone. So if you go to a Sikh temple, they'll feed you for free. And a lot of religious places are like that. And just don't abuse it. I would feel really bad if I told you about those places and then someone went and like ate with the Sikhs every day if they didn't really need it, right? Because they're just really good people who don't believe that people should be hungry. So try not to take advantage of that. Lastly, there are school food pantries. So I know that at UVU and at the U, and I'm sure at BYU, they have food pantries for their students and their staff because they know that school is really expensive and there's a possibility that their students are going hungry, and that really sucks. But at least they're trying to do something about it. So the food pantries at schools, also, I've seen them include things like things babies need, like diapers and formula and that kind of thing. So if you need those things, go look. They're out there, and they're run by really great people who don't want you to be hungry. I'm almost done. So the other things that we have, I really love coupons. When I use a coupon, I don't know why, I get such a dopamine rush. I think that they're great. So one of the things that I learned about a little later in life were manufacturer's coupons versus store coupons, right? So sometimes you'll be going through the papers and you'll clip out a coupon, and it's like a coupon for your local grocery store, and it's $2 off of, like, let's say, a family dinner for 5. I don't know. And so, like a frozen family dinner. So you'll go there, but what you should also do is you should look online for something called manufacturer's coupons. These coupons are not through grocery stores. They're actually through the people who make the product. So if the manufacturer of that family dinner for 5, that frozen family dinner for 5, also did a $2 coupon, I could stack the manufacturer's coupon on the store coupon and save $4. And you don't really have to feel bad about that, because the manufacturer in that case is going to reimburse the store for that coupon. It was just to get people to kind of try their thing, and maybe they'll like it so much they'll just keep buying it even at full price. The other thing are store apps. A lot of stores have their own apps. I was just looking at Walmart a day or two ago, and their app, I couldn't find any coupons on it, but I also didn't download it because it had such low ratings. So, but I know like Target has a lot of really great coupons on their app. And then they also have some other plans, like there's Target Circle, which allows you to save some money. And then if you get a debit card through Target, which you can only use at Target, you save 5% off of every purchase. So it's not going to affect your credit the way opening up a credit card is, which is also an option at Target. But you can get a debit card, and it's not going to affect your credit. It's just going to save you 5% off of all your purchases. I think last year, I don't go to Target a whole lot, even though I live right by it. I think last year I saved like $50, which, you know, isn't a lot when you look at it piecemeal, but at the end of the year, like if someone was going to hand me $50, I'd be thrilled. So, and then also when you go to a store, there's something called price matching. Price matching is really great. So I have this glowing jellyfish. It like turns on and on, like it pulses with light, and I really like it. It calms me down. I like to look at it. I'm autistic. I like those kinds of things. So the really sad thing was that my jellyfish, I use it so much that it ran out of batteries. And so, and they were those little tiny, like smaller than a dime batteries. And I knew that those were kind of expensive. So I went on Target.com and I looked up how much they were going to be on their website. And it was something like $4 or something like that. And I was like, that's fine. It's worth it to me to have $4 batteries for my calming jellyfish. So I went to Target and I picked up my batteries. And then when I got to the checkout, the batteries actually rang up as $15. And the person who was checking me out was just this really bored teenage girl. And I was like, I just kind of said very kind of quietly, like, oh, they were $4 on the website. And she just overwrote how much they cost. So instead of paying $15 for those batteries, I paid $4. So price match things in stores. Like if you're standing around and you're about to buy something, like maybe look on the website to see how much something is if you think it's a little expensive. You never know when you're going to be able to price match. You can also price match sometimes between stores. So if something is cheaper at one store and is a little more at another one, if you can prove to that store that that the thing is cheaper at another store, they'll often take off that amount of money. So try price matching. It's really exciting when it works. There are liquidation stores. A lot of people don't realize that the Dollar Tree can be a liquidation store. So a lot of the time there's things that are kind of, they're name brands, right? Like there's usually toothpaste. I'll often find foods there that are name brands, that kind of thing, that, you know, they're just maybe a little bit past expired, or maybe they're about to expire. And those things are okay to use still. Generally, I'm sure every once in a while, this is not the case, but generally people aren't going to put things on their shelves that can hurt you because they could get in really bad trouble. So if you see something that's slightly past its expiration date, and something like a can of peaches, you can buy that and you're going to be okay. So there's places like Ross, which liquidate clothes from more expensive clothing stores. There's places like Dollar General and Dollar Tree. There's a place up a little ways from me called Liquidation Team, and they actually liquidate like kind of electronics, clothes, so like coffee makers, vacuums. Like I'll go in there and I'll just see something like exercise equipment, and I'll just be kind of taken aback that it wasn't bought before, and now I can buy it at a much lower price at the Liquidation Team. It's nice. And then lastly, there are thrift shops. So I love thrift shops. If I could, I'd be in them every day. Obviously, with COVID, I've kind of stopped because it's used stuff, and that freaks me out a little bit. But generally, I love to go to thrift shops. So Savers, DI, and consignment stores are stores where you can take your clothes, your gently used clothes, and you can sell them. And you can buy other people's gently used clothes. So there are lots of consignment stores like Plato's Closet. There's a couple up in Salt Lake that I really like Uptown Cheapskate and Pids Exchange. If you're into some more like kind of edgy, I hesitate to say, edgy or alternative fashions, you can find those there. You can also find pretty normal things at both places. I got some jelly shoes there that are adult and a nice size at Pids Exchange, and that was like 2 years ago, and I'm still excited about it. Okay, so last but definitely not least, I mentioned something that you could use if I didn't address the problem that you're having today. And one of those things is 211.org, or you can dial 211. This is just a huge resource compilation. So if you're struggling for food or housing, or maybe rent's due and you're just a little short, or you can't pay for your utilities, or just stuff like that, stuff where you just need a little boost, or maybe you don't need help but your kids do, or something like that. Childcare is attached to this. All of these kinds of things. You can call or look up 211, and they're going to help you find resources that are close to you that will help you to make it through hard times. And then also just go on 211 and kind of look around. Like, it's really interesting to know some of the holes in people's lives that need to be filled that, I personally don't need diapers for a child because I don't have a child, but it's interesting to know that there are people out there who do need diapers, and how expensive diapers are. So yeah, just give 211 just kind of a look around. It's very interesting. That is the end of my slideshow. I'll stop presenting. Okay. I hope that was helpful in some way, at least that I have pointed you in some directions towards things, if you need them now or in the future, or even if you just know someone who needs to know about those things. And if you have questions, I forgot to make a slide, but my email is sarah@svacademy.org, and I am happy to kind of help you out. If you just if you can't remember something, or you just want to know the answer to something, I'd be happy to answer those things for you. Thanks for listening and watching. Bye-bye.